Josh Johnson is probably on the most insane run of any comedian ever right now. I mean, he's currently putting out a brand new 40 minutes of material at least every week. People used to say that what Louis C.K. was doing was crazy when he'd put out an hour a year. This guy's doing it in 7 days. That's insane. I believe he did 100 million views on YouTube last year alone. Good for you, buddy. That's wild. One of Johnson's smartest moves is that he never just leaves a topical bit as topical. Instead of just riffing on headlines, he connects them to personal stories, everyday observations, and experiences from his home life.
I knew Marty through stories, because Marty had an interesting life. This dude spent a bunch of time in France, and apparently he dreamed in French. It came up because here in the U.S., he met someone, and they fell in love, but she was French. So went all the way to France, didn't meet anybody. Came back here, met a French woman, right? And he basically, in a nutshell, forgot his girlfriend's birthday. It kept seeming like maybe there was a surprise waiting, or he was pretending to have forgotten or something, and then he went and took a nap. Yeah, not only did you forget my birthday, you napping in my face. And then I guess when she realized that he genuinely did forget, she woke him up, and she woke him up mad. And when she was mad, she'd go straight to French, right? Because she'd be so mad she wasn't putting it in English for him. And so he woke up to his girlfriend yelling at him in French. So he thought he was still dreaming.
This makes his material more relatable and timeless, while still taking advantage of the immediacy of a trending story. In interviews, I've heard Josh talk about how he never wanted to be a topical comedian. He wanted to be a timeless comic. You know, his heroes were people like Richard Pryor, who would just talk about very personal subjects. But it wasn't until posting the topical stuff online that people really started to resonate with him.
I had always been writing a lot,
Yeah.
and then a good friend of mine was like, you should do topical stuff since you already write so much stuff. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I've always written a lot, and I've always like tried to think a thing out quickly and then write it out quickly and stuff. But then applying it to topical was the first time that I was like, oh yeah, there will be finally a place for all this stuff to go, which is nice, because I feel like when I was just doing these things but not topical and not recording, it was like no one noticed it, if that makes sense.
So that if this is something you want to do yourself, an exercise you can do is to look at the news, find a story that people are talking about, but more specifically, a story people are talking about that interests you, and then ask yourself these questions of, what does this remind me of in my own life? What does this story say about human behavior, family, relationships, or growing up? How would my younger self or my parents react to this? So when you're writing jokes about the news, force yourself to connect it to a personal story. This could be from childhood, dating, work, your family, anything.
It's the intention is to both be talking about something current, but then blow it up to a place that is like evergreen, or a thing that is like central to people. So something that is like more universal, you know?
Can you give us an example or expand on that?
Yeah, I think that like 100 men versus a gorilla.
Yeah.
And there is a thing that deeper than like the scenario and anything like that, there is a thing as a man that you sort of walk through the world with of like, could I take him?
So if it's like a zombie apocalypse situation, I'm getting bit, okay? I'm not trying to get bit. I'm not going to offer up my neck or something like that. I just already know that if I'm in a zombie apocalypse situation, when the zombie is coming at me, I'm going to be like, oh, he ain't got no ears, 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 he ain't got no ears. I will not be running. He ain't got no ears, he ain't got no ears, he ain't got no ears, he ain't got no ears. Biting my neck. He ain't got no ears, he ain't got no ears, he ain't got no ears, he ain't got no...
One of Josh's biggest strengths is his clear comedic persona. He's got this calm, low-key, thoughtful persona that almost feels like a smart friend who you just like trust to tell you what's going on. And then you're like, yes, I will steal those opinions and pretend like they're my own. The pacing of his delivery is partly why he's able to churn out such long videos every week. Because if he was doing like one punchline every 10 to 20 seconds, it would be insane for him to be able to put out 40 to 50 minutes a week. This sounds, as I'm saying it, it sounds like I'm roasting the guy. I'm not saying that he's not writing loads of jokes. He is, but he's also very good at using the pauses and the slowing down to then hit these big moments. And because that persona is so defined, he can basically take any topic, whether it's the Titanic submarine or some big political scandal, and automatically make it feel like a Josh Johnson joke because he just applies his worldview to it. So when you're writing jokes about the news, don't just ask yourself what's funny about this story, but ask yourself, what would my persona specifically think about this? You can almost look at your persona as a filter. You've got current events going in, you're applying your worldview to them, and then brand new, cool, unique worldviews come out. In some of the interviews I've read, he's talked about how his process is a combination of desk writing and on-stage exploration. So he'll write as much as possible, memorize it as best he can, and then fill in all of the connective tissues on stage. So how I tend to do this in my own stand-up, not to make this about me, is I'll have my subject, I'll write a few jokes, and then I'll just kind of remember the punchlines and then figure the rest out on stage, and maybe in the moment I'll think of a couple tags, or just in the way that I string one punchline to the next, I can find a joke within that. And I think from reading what he's doing, it's a somewhat similar process, obviously done to a much higher level.
No, it's wild. It really is. This is crazy. And I don't even know, you almost don't know how to feel. And I think that's part of the problem, is that everything happens so fast now, you have to know how you feel immediately, because everyone has a take immediately. And that's not how the world works, Sometimes you see something, you don't know how you feel about it when it happens. And you need a day or two. But that's not how the news cycle works, it's not how people work, it's not how social works, That's a big problem I have. I'm never the person with the first take. I try to think for a while and then have a good take on something. And I still don't have a good take on this. I'll admit that right now. I really don't. It's hella conflicting. I'll tell you who's not conflicted, though, is the Titanic. The Titanic is wow. We up here, can we laugh about it? Can we not laugh about it? Whatever. Titanic just crip walking right now. I fucking got another one. That's crazy.
Something that always annoys me about most stand-up specials is that they seem to completely forget that this is a filmed and edited medium, and there are opportunities for more comedy in the edit and in how you film something, and some jokes just don't really translate well to a filmed medium. And because of the cadence of his uploads, most of the time Josh is just shooting his sets in the traditional stand-up way. But you can see him starting to experiment with refining and heightening jokes in the edit.
This man was so good looking, they took extra mug shots. There's some that are a little lower than him, where he looking down, There's some up high where he just you can tell even the mugshot photographer was now do it like you're a bad boy.
I think some of the main things we can take away from Josh and what he's doing right now is to don't hoard your material. Refine it, release it, move on, write more. Live a really boring life where all you do is read the news, write jokes, and go on stage. Don't do anything else. Don't have hobbies and a family life. Use your persona as a filter. Every topic becomes yours once it's passed through your worldview. And tie the topical to the personal. This gives your jokes both an immediacy and a longevity.
I got invited to a party, which if you know me, that's a surprise, all right? I'm a bit of a bummer in person, okay? So I got invited to this party, didn't know there'd be hard drugs at this party. I don't really care about hard drugs, all right? That's not live your life, do whatever you want to do, okay? But someone offered me heroin. Right? This is the thing. Everybody understands weed. A lot of people do like cocaine, but no one doing heroin has a 5-year plan, all right? That's no one you need to be associating yourself with. If you do heroin, you either play the guitar really well, or you just got a lot of feelings. I don't know what to say about you. So he offered me the heroin, and I didn't want to not seem cool, but I didn't want to take the heroin, okay? And so he passed it to me in the needle, and I was like, oh, no thanks, I am stuffed. I could not have any more heroin today. I am tapped out. Oh my God.